Church of Wilmington, Delaware. I welcome you to this morning's service, whether you're joining online or here in the sanctuary. This is a welcoming congregation, open to all, open to those seeking a place for their spirit, no matter if you are light or heavy of heart. Come, whoever you are, however you identify, no matter who you love, and wherever you are on your spiritual journey, know that you are welcome here in this community. And now, as we prepare for our gathering this morning, just a quick reminder for those present in the building that we've adopted some reopening guidelines for meeting in the building and on the grounds, which I'm sure many of you have seen. In fact, as I think about reminding you of these guidelines, I'm thinking back to, remember when we used to fly on airplanes and they'd say, let us have your attention now for the safety announcement. And everyone who's flown on a plane before starts reading their tablet or doing their crossword puzzle or talking to their co-traveler. No one's paying any attention to what's going on in the aisle in the plane. So let's do this. If you've heard these announcements before, as I say them, just say to yourself, I got it. So we ask that you leave your masks on properly at all times, unless you have a speaking role or are outdoors. And there will be no coffee hour. And we ask that you not gather in the building after the service waiting for coffee, because there will be no coffee this morning. You may gather on the lawn to the left of the entrance as you exit the building after the service. Please stay masked and practice social distancing as you greet one another after the service. During the hymns, we will not be singing, but you are invited to express yourself by some movements as you feel so inspired, or tap your feet, or nudge the person next to you to get in the mood with the music. Please know that all these things are being done to take the utmost care to keep us safe and so that we all may continue to enjoy time in the sanctuary together. This morning, we're joined by Reverend Andrew Weber, a Unitarian Universalist minister currently living in Newark, Delaware, with his wife and 2 children. Andrew is a part-time CrossFit coach at the University of Delaware, a part-time pulpit supply minister at the area congregations, all while being a full-time parent. He enjoys long-distance running for meditation and competition. He eats a plant-based diet and speaks Hungarian conversationally. And he listens to opera and techno. Andrew strives to continue to live a mindful and grounded life for himself, his family, and the world. And you may catch his reflections in an online blog called How to Drive Like a Minister. Welcome, Reverend Weber. And now, let us be present with our whole selves, both hearts and minds, as we share this time together.
We bid you welcome, who come with weary spirits seeking rest, who come with troubles that are too much with you, who come hurt and afraid. We bid you welcome, who come with hope in your heart, who come with anticipation in your step, who come proud and joyous. We bid you welcome, who are seekers of a new faith, who come to probe and explore, who come to learn. We bid you welcome, who enter this hall as a homecoming, who have found here room for your spirit, who find in this people a family. Whoever you are, whatever you are, wherever you are on your journey, we bid you welcome.
If you have a chalice at home, I encourage you to light it now as we light the chalice in the sanctuary. The lighted chalice represents a flame of truth and is a light to guide our souls. It is the warmth of hope, the joy of blessings. It is the flame of commitment to the work in this community.
Side by side, circle of kinship, come and step inside. May all who seek here find a kindly word. May all who speak here feel they have been heard. Sing now together this our heart's own song. Here we have gathered, called to celebrate days of our lifetime, matters small and great. We of all ages, women, children, men, infants and sages, sharing what we can. Sing now together this our heart's own song. Life has its battles, sorrows and regrets, but in the shadows let us not forget. We who now gather know each other's pain. Kindness can heal us as we give, we gain. Sing now in friendship this our heart's own song.
Please join me as together we say our affirmation of our mission. First Unitarian Church of Wilmington is a beloved community that nourishes minds and spirits, fights injustice, and transforms the world through loving action.
Hi everyone, I'm glad to be here with you today. Have you ever heard of the books about Curious George by H.A. Rey? George is a monkey who lives with his friend, the man with the yellow hat. George is always getting into predicaments because he doesn't make good choices. For example, one day the man with the yellow hat spent a lot of time talking on the phone. He needed to talk to some people about work. He made some appointments, and he chatted with some friends. Then the man went out. George wanted to use the phone too. He picked it up and looked at all the lights and colors. He pushed some buttons. He pushed the phone button and numbers appeared. Then George started pushing the numbers. Suddenly, someone started speaking. "Hello? What is the emergency? Hello? You have reached the fire department. What is the emergency?" Well, George is a monkey, and he couldn't answer. "We have found your location," the person on the phone cried. "Emergency vehicles are on the way." The firefighters jumped on the fire engines and took off. Ding dong, woo, woo, woo. When the firefighters arrived at George's house, they rushed in and no fire, only a monkey holding a phone. George tried to run away, but the fire chief yelled, "Catch him!" 2 firefighters grabbed George by the arms, and the fire chief said, "You wasted our fire department's resources and time. We are taking you to jail where you cannot do any more harm." They took him away and put him in prison. George did not like being locked up in a room. He was scared and wanted to find the man with the yellow hat. George wanted to get out. He climbed up the window and tried to go through the bars. Just then, the watchman came in. He climbed onto a bed to try to get George down, but the bed tipped over. The watchman fell over, and quick as lightning, George ran out through the open door. Once outside, he climbed a pole and walked along the power lines. The police and firefighters were frantic, looking everywhere for George. Well, everywhere but up. As George scampered along the wires, he looked down in the street and spotted a person selling balloons. He saw a child buy a balloon for their younger sibling. George felt he must have a bright red balloon. He reached over to help himself, but instead of one balloon, he grabbed the whole bunch. In an instant, the wind whisked the balloons away, and with them went George, flying into the air, holding tight with both hands. George was frightened as the wind blew him over the town. Finally, the wind calmed down. Slowly, the balloons, with George attached, drifted toward the ground, then bump! George landed on top of a traffic light. Traffic came to a halt. People were pointing and yelling. The balloon man ran up, followed by the police and firefighters. George didn't know what to do. And then he heard someone call, "George!" He looked down and saw his friend, the man with the yellow hat. George slid down the traffic light, and the man with the yellow hat scooped him up. The man with the yellow hat paid the person selling the balloons for all the balloons George had stolen. Then George and the man climbed into their car and finally drove home. That's an exciting story. And everything that happens to George seems so funny. Did you notice, though, that George was put in jail after dialing the fire department by accident? That is a harsh punishment. And then after he stole the balloons, the man with the yellow hat paid for them and let George keep the balloons. That doesn't seem right either. George didn't learn anything and wasn't taught how to do better next time. I wonder what would happen if George was lovingly helped to grow. Maybe Instead of being put in prison for accidentally calling the fire department, George could be taught how to use the phone. He could be taught the reasons to call for emergency help. Then he might need to go to the fire station, apologize, and clean some of the fire trucks. Instead of getting to keep the balloons he stole, maybe George could have given them back and apologized. The man with the yellow hat could explain to George that stealing is wrong, and we can't just take something because we want it. Then George could do some chores at home to earn money to pay back the person selling the balloons. All of this would be hard work for the firefighters and the man with the yellow hat. But by being held accountable, George would grow in knowledge and trustworthiness. He would become a better member of society by receiving caring and difficult love.
We come to this time from unique places and unique situations. Sometimes we come with doubts and disbeliefs. Sometimes we come with joy and hope for fullness. Other times we may come burdened with sorrow and helplessness. But in whatever spirit you arrive in this moment of sharing, let us be together, feeling our neighbor's love and compassion and extending the same to others, and receiving the gift of acceptance from one and all. Let your mind ease, and then reach out for and embrace the gift of community in our shared moments together. And now I invite you to say aloud or enter into the chat the names of those in your heart who are in need of healing and comfort on this day. And may all those named and those unnamed who are in need of healing and comfort find the peace of those needs. May it be so.
Good morning. It's nice to be here with people both virtual and in person. And it is a little strange, but it's nice. The reading I've chosen for today is from the Reverend Dr. Lillian Daniel, who's a United Church of Christ pastor. And she has a book called When Spiritual But Not Religious Is Not Enough, which I think speaks to some of us too, not just our UCC siblings. From her book. On airplanes, I dread the conversation with the person who finds out I'm a minister and wants to use the flight time to explain to me that he is spiritual but not religious. Such a person will always share this as if it is some kind of daring insight, unique to him, bold in rebellion against the religious status quo. Next thing you know, he's telling me that he finds God in the sunsets. These people always find God in the sunsets. And in walks on the beach. Sometimes I think that these people never leave the beach or the mountains, what with all the communing with God they do on hilltops, hiking trails, and did I mention the beach at sunset yet? Like people who go to church don't see God in the sunset. Like we are these monastic little hermits who never leave the church building. How lucky we are to have these geniuses inform us that God is in nature. As if we didn't hear that in the Psalms, the creation stories, and throughout our deep tradition. Being privately spiritual but not religious just doesn't interest me. There's nothing challenging about having deep thoughts all by oneself. What is interesting is doing this work in community, where other people might call you on stuff, or heaven forbid, disagree with you. Where life with God gets rich and provocative is when you dig deeply into a tradition that you did not invent for yourself. So thank you for sharing spiritual but not religious sunset person. You are now comfortably in the norm for self-centered American culture. Right smack in the bland majority of people who find ancient religions dull and find themselves uniquely fascinating. Can I switch seats now? And sit next to someone who has been shaped by a mighty cloud of witness instead? Can I spend my time talking to someone brave enough to encounter God in a real human relationship, in a real human community? Because when the flight gets choppy, that's who I want by my side, holding my hand and saying a prayer, simply putting up with me, just like the way we try to do in church. There ends our reading. Over the summer, this past summer, my family spent a lot of time at our community swimming pool. And signing up for a pool membership was a fantastic idea for us because the summer was very hot. We had mainly been at home for the past year and a half. I'm sure you can imagine this. And so the pool gave us a place where we could be outside. It gave us a place where we could cool off, give us a change of environment from being at home, but also it gave us a way to connect with our geographic community, with those around us, those who lived nearby. We saw families we knew from elsewhere, we strengthened some friendships, and we also met new people at the pool. And some of these connections were very tangential, as with any community. People we would recognize. We see them day after day. Nothing further. We don't really talk to them. It's like, oh, yeah, I remember seeing them. So my introductory story this morning is about such a family. One that we saw, one that we noticed and recognized. The family consists of 2 adults and 3 children, maybe 3, 5, and 7. And the reason that I noticed this family was that they have children about the same age as ours. And the adults were trying to do something similar to what we were trying to do with our children, which is teach them to swim. So I noticed them, like they're doing similar things with kids about the same age. Now, in general, my parenting style, I aspire to be a parent of loving support without being overbearing. So when we started teaching our children to swim, I allowed them to set their own pace and set their own engagement level. And our swimming was extremely laid back. So we'd get there and we'd have lots and lots of pool noodles, which were fun. Lots of carrying, lots of holding, some goggle use, and some, sporadic getting actually in the water. We were getting there. We were doing something. We were having fun. Slow progress. Now, the other family, however, they had a very different approach to their parenting, at least what we saw. One adult would bring a child into the pool and give that child very specific tasks, and they would call it their swimming lesson. They would give them specific support, and they give them a specific challenge. And wow, what a difference. I mean, what I thought at first was like, these kids are going to be so much more confident than ours in the water. So at first, I was like, I want to emulate what's happening here. I want to do this in how I'm showing love to my kids. Maybe push our children a little bit harder so that they could also succeed, so they could be better swimmers. The difference between what we were doing and what the other family was doing was what I saw as a sort of difference between passive and active love, between sort of indulgent and tough love. If I truly wanted my children to live into their best selves in this area of swimming, now maybe I needed to push them a little bit more. Maybe I was being caring, but not having enough accountability, not having enough challenge for their growth. That's what we need to do, right? So not just in parenting, but in our relationships, in our communities, just as we heard with Curious George, we need to push. We need to not just go into the woods by ourselves, so to speak. We need to grow as a community with people helping us to have that love of accountability, that's tough love, of telling another when we think there's a mistake, telling other when we think there's an area for growth, supporting with those hard realities and difficult conversations. So this genuine and difficult love means pushing to action, invitation to growth, opportunities for vulnerability. So just I'll kind of come back to our community's mission. First Unitarian Church of Wilmington is a beloved community that nourishes minds and spirits, fights injustice, transforms the world through loving action. So these processes of nourishing minds and spirits, of fighting injustice, of transforming the world through loving action, these processes cannot happen without some force of accountability, without some form of challenge. We come together in community not to have our proverbial bellies rubbed and backs patted. We come together in community so that we can give and receive a love of accountability, so that we can give and receive a love of challenge, a love of growth, a love of support. Now that being said, there's a difference between a love of accountability with care and causing harm. And there's a line between challenging care and outright harm. And that's the reason why I've actually been shying away a little bit from the title that I titled the service of Tough Love. Because for the word tough and the term tough love both bring to my mind that risk of being harmful, of being mean, and calling it love. The slippery slope of mistreatment can easily start from a place of perceived care, a place of perceived tough love. Which brings me back to this family at the pool. The community pool and their swimming lessons. So the family, I noticed, they did indeed get their children more into the water. They did indeed get their children more underwater, but not in a loving way. In one memorable instance, this family was working on using a snorkel, which is holding your mouth, and they have the end out of the water, to get their children comfortable being underwater, get their children comfortable breathing through a snorkel. And to do this, one parent actually held the head of a child underwater, the whole while the child was thrashing, crying, and saying, as only a small child really can do, in complete honesty, "I don't like it when you hold my head underwater." That is not okay. That is not okay. holding anyone's head underwater while they are struggling for breath, no matter your intention, that's not okay. That is wrong. The parent was looking for benefit, right? I mean, the parent was looking to help their child learn to swim, was looking to help their child be a better person. This was tough love, right? No, this was mistreatment. This was wholly inappropriate. There was another instance of a somewhat similar action where a different child was screaming and crying while the parent forced them to float on the water without any support. At this occurrence, 2 lifeguards came over and asked that the family stop and offered the child assistance and help. Thankfully, a person with authority named this for what it was, inappropriate and harmful. Now, this story of teaching children to swim, there's a lot to unpack here. It really touches me on a personal level. There's a lot here. But right now we're going to talk about this love of accountability, this tough love, the line here. Yes, what I was doing, just being in a pool without getting in the water won't teach anyone to swim. But pushing to a state of anxiety, pushing to a state of distress is also not the answer. Neither enabling or on one side nor harm on the other are good paths to tough, caring, supporting, and accountable love. Locking Curious George in prison is not going to help him learn how to use the phone. Giving him all the balloons is not going to help him learn how to make a transaction, earn, and know that stealing is wrong. This holds true, as before, with all relationships. We need to know and we need to hear how we have fallen short of another's expectations, but not through spite, not through animosity. Just imagine. Imagine you and your beloved are living together, and there are often dirty dishes left after your meals. Now, one response would be just grumbling to yourself as you clean up, not mentioning anything, just going, oh, I'm just so angry. Okay, that's one. That's not communicating, though. That's not speaking. That's permitting an unwelcome action. It's just like allow it to happen. Now, a different reaction, sort of one side, a different reaction is saying, you make me so angry when you leave your dirty dishes in the sink. If you loved me, you would clean them. Ooh, now that might be tough. That isn't love, though. That's on the other side. And although there is a stab at communication, it's manipulative and downright mean. So let's look at the middle, what that might be. Let's hear this response. I'm feeling as if I'm doing a lot of our dishes. Can you please try not to leave dirty dishes in the sink? That's a little bit more caring. It names the concern. It leaves open space for further communication. And the final response might not be what feels easy, but that's the love there. That's the loving response. Now, I could keep on going as in our lives, personal, communal, the examples are myriad. I could keep on going. How do we show difficult love to each other in friendships, in romance, in colleagues, in faith communities? How do we support each other with accountability in our quest for growth and discovery right here? Is there punishment when we fall short? When we're not our best selves, do we get punished? Is there quiet permission for our missteps? Or is there loving accountability? When I'm less than loving, is this community able to do that difficult, that possibly uncomfortable, but definite loving response of letting me know, rather than allowing or punishing? All faith needs life application. I'm big into faith, life application. So I have 2 further examples, one from my children again, and one from church life. So as a summer of learning to swim, we also were looking to learn how to ride bikes. It was an exciting summer. And if you ever want to help a child learn to swim or help a child learn to ride a bike, you will quickly see the difference between easy enabling, harsh punishment, and difficult love. There's some differences there. And so once again, with my parenting, I'm seeing myself for what I am. I have fallen into the habit of this easy comfort, sort of stagnation. And in bike riding, what that looks like, my enablement looks like using training wheels for years, using those training wheels, which the training wheels are very comfortable. They're caring, but they also don't help much with balance because they hold the bike up and there's no sense of balance. You don't really gain that, it just holds you up. So we decided to push a little, figuratively, here on the bike. We took off the training wheels and also took off the pedals. So if you can imagine what that is, 2 wheels, handlebars, and so you can sit and you can take big steps, hold on to the handlebars, balance a little bit. Much, much harder to ride. Much harder to ride these bicycles without training wheels and without pedals, but much better at teaching how to balance on the bicycle. Were our children happy with us? No, they were not happy with us. They cried, they were angry, they were upset. But also, they were not in danger. They were not in extreme distress. We moved from our comfortable, not extremely helpful action to a less comfortable, hopefully more helpful one. Balanced bikes turned out to be good, tough love. Now, my other example is from congregational life. As Ed said in my introduction, I currently do guest preaching, like right now, and I also do vacation or sabbatical coverage when a colleague is away or needs to take a break. And at one church I was serving, a member called me on the phone and started complaining about their full-time minister and the community as a whole. The member had found in me a new ear, a new person to listen to the hurt and the pain that they had. Now, that's not bad. That's good to reach out and express your feelings. Just as before, I had a couple possible responses. The easy response would be to agree. Agree with the concerns and nothing more. It's like, yep, you're correct. You're absolutely correct. The minister, the community are wrong. You got it. Okay. The punitive response would be to tell the member that they were wrong to feel such things. How could you say that? You're mistaken. All right, those are the two extremes. Now in the middle, the loving, the more difficult response with a more difficult outcome is to encourage and support conversation between that member and the minister. The relationship between the member and the minister couldn't be healed without conversation. The community couldn't grow without knowing their concerns. The minister couldn't know about the concerns without the difficult conversation. So growth in this relationship, and just the relationship in general, was best served through that difficult path, through that more difficult talking about the concerns, getting together, and hearing the hurt. So encouraging conversation was that good, tough love. So bringing this home, so to speak, brings me to First Unitarian's end statements. Our end state, that is the outcome and benefit of this community's ministry. That's the end statement. It's like, what happens when we do our ministry? At First Unitarian Church of Wilmington, people of all ages gain new perspectives and grow as informed spiritual human beings. That's just one of them. Now, if I am going to gain new perspectives, if you are going to gain new perspectives, if you are going to grow as an informed and a spiritual being, there better be some difficult conversations. There better be some uncomfortable and loving accountability. Is embodying compassion means having others point out when we are not loving to ourselves, to each other, to the holy. It means pointing out to others when they're not loving. Growing as an informed person means having others support us in being more loving to ourselves, to others, to the holy. Growing as an informed person means pointing out to others how they could be more loving to themselves, to others, and to the holy. Growing as a spiritual person means living into the tough, the difficult, the uncomfortable, accountable love. As I said, and as you see in my preaching, I always like to bring theory to practice. So I'm going to end with just some brief ideas of what this might look like, what this could look like in everyday life. The tough love I'm talking about is that good, it's that healthy, that difficult love of wanting growth, of wanting self-community betterment. It looks like reaching out to a friend, reaching out to a colleague. It looks like reaching out to a minister, a therapist, a teacher, a personal trainer, support group, counselor, family member, to someone you trust. Reaching out and saying, for example, I feel like I'm drinking too much alcohol. Can you help me? Love looks like naming it again with care and trust in others. For example, hey, what you said to your spouse, it really felt hurtful to me. Can we talk about that? This tough love also doesn't have to be so groundbreaking as those two examples. It can be, Dad, you're really good at time management. Can you help me with that? Like, friend, hey, what's up with your really curt email messages? This is the tough love that I'm talking about. This community invites us to embody love. It invites us to embody compassion and growth. We are invited to embody love. That invitation is not easy. Embodying love is not easy. It takes practice. It takes mistakes. It takes coming back into our best selves. It takes support. It takes this difficult care. So we are called to live into that caring, that difficult, that uncomfortable love. So hear that invitation to embody love, even when it is hard. Amen.
Faith is a forest in which doubts play and hide. Insight can hear the still small voice deep inside. Web of life, may this thread I weave, strength and commitment to all I believe. Vision be my guide as I seek my way. Lead me into this tender day. Speak through me in all I do and say. Seeds of both meek and strong are scattered in air. Dignity shines undimmed by bigotry's glare. Web of life, may this thread I weave help me bear witness to all I believe. Justice be my guide as I seek my way. Lead me into this tender day. Speak through me in all I do and say. Fortune and famine ride the swift winds of chance. Sorrow and pleasure seem united in dance. Web of life, may this thread I weave mingle compassion with all
As I contemplated this moment in our service, I naturally thought, what can I bring to this moment of stewardship? What being in this community really means to me. And that meaning takes many forms of expression for me personally. But I find that at its core, our weekly affirmation is what really gets me pumped up. And Reverend Weber highlighted that as well in his service. And think about it. This is a beloved community. It nourishes your mind, your spirit. It fights injustice with you. And together, we can transform the world through a display of this community's loving action. That's my mantra. That's the yes of why I'm here at First Unitarian Universalist. I suspect that that resonates with you as well. And to sustain that affirmation, in addition to our presence, volunteering, our time, our talents, we also need to provide financial support as we are each able. And I also want to take a moment to encourage you to support our supplemental stewardship campaign, expanding our circle and closing the gap, which will allow us to continue to fund our AV staff position and a teaching assistant in our faith development program. Pledge forms for that are available in the rear of the sanctuary. Now this morning, as always, there are 4 ways to give, as displayed over here on your screen. For those present, there is a box at the rear of the sanctuary if you wish to give this morning as you leave. You may mail a check to the church office. You can go to the website and donate. Or you can use the new Vanco app on your smart device to make your offering. And now, I ask you to please join me in dedicating this morning's offering to the work of this congregation, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action. We dedicate the lives, and these are offerings.
We laugh, we cry, we live, we die, we dance, we sing our song. We need to feel there's something here to victory carry on. We need to feel the freedom just to have some time alone. But most of all, we need the strength we call our very own, and we believe in life and in the strength of love, and we have found a need to live together. We have our hearts to give, we have our thoughts to receive, and we believe that sharing is an answer. A child is born among us, and we feel a special glow. We see time's endless journey as we watch the baby grow. We thrill to hear imagination freely running wild. Spirit of the child, and we believe in life and in the strength of love, and we have found a time to be together, and with the grace of age we share the wonder of youth, and we believe that growing is an answer. Our lives are full of wonder and our time is very brief. The death of one among us fills us all with grief. But as we live, so shall we die, and when our lives are gone, the memories we share with friends will linger on and on, and we believe in life and in the strength of love, and we have found a place to be together. We have a right to grow. We have a gift to believe that peace within our living is an answer. We seek in you celestial the questions of this life. We seek to put an end to all the waste of human strife. We search for truth, equality, and blessed peace of mind. And then we come together here to the sense of what we find, and we believe in life and in the strength of love, and we have found a joy together, and in our search for peace, maybe we'll finally see, even to question truly is an answer.
For all who seek God, may God go with you. For all who embrace life, may life return your affection. For all who seek a right path, may a way be found and the courage to take it step by step.
As we extinguish our chalice, may it light your path and glow gently in your heart. May you know the grace and love of the chalice, and may the flame be with you until we're together again.